Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Castles, more castles. Castles. Hey guys, if you're not ready to learn about castles, there's the door. My name's Connor. Rhode Island, New England, US, in that order. I like to learn about history through YouTube videos. Original link to the video, top of the description. Link to the Discord right below that. Just click on it. It'll send you right over there. And right below that, link to my second channel, where I do more non-history related stuff. So this is Scotland. Why Fort George in the Scottish Highlands could never be breached. Let's go. Merry Christmas, guys. All right. I want to make sure to say that all the time. All right. Greatest holiday, except for maybe the 4th. Hope you guys are all doing well. Let's do it. Go.
The Jacobite.
This guy's great. He's in Timeline. A lot of great. This is history hit. Why does it keep saying I didn't click the bell icon? I clicked the bell icon.
The Jacobite Uprising of 1740.
Okay. Jacobite Uprising. Okay. Go.
The Jacobite Uprising of 1745-6 had shaken the British state to its core. It could never be allowed to happen again. And the British government took measures up here to ensure that it didn't. After the Battle of Culloden, the British government decided to throw everything they had at it, and they built the most remarkable fortress in 18th century Britain.
Coffee down the wrong thing.
Most remarkable fortress in 18th century Britain. It's still perfectly intact today. It's called Fort George, and it is one of my favourite places to come to anywhere in the British Isles. It was designed to be a bastion of Hanoverian rule in the unruly north of Britain. They spent on this massive
look at the rainbow.
The equivalent of 1 year of Scotland's GNP. This was, at the time, considered the best fortress in the UK.
Whoa. Looks like a very expensive boarding school. Or a prison.
So I've come outside the walls of this fortress now, and the first thing you notice about it is how low-lying it is. You can hardly see this mighty fort, and yet it's one of the most powerful forts built in Europe at this time. And that low-lying nature is absolutely deliberate because it's designed for artillery. This is a castle, but for the age of cannon. So any cannon outside this fort firing in, first of all, the first obstacle is this glacis here, which is a very gently sloping up surface here, wide open, so there's nowhere to hide if you're attacking it. And cannonballs shot at the walls of the fort would hit this, skim off, harmlessly just bounce off over it. So the glacis is the first defensive feature. Then we come on
very nice trench
through here, and there's something called a covered way. This is basically trench warfare, but you know, a couple of centuries before the World War I.
Have I not improved? Any of you guys been here since the beginning? By the way, I'm coming up on my 1-year anniversary of doing reaction videos. I think January 4th was the first time I did it. All right, sorry. I also had to check the volume.
Come on through here, and there's something called a covered way. Okay. This is basically trench warfare, but you know, a couple of centuries before the World War I. Look at this. It's a parapet. You're designed to stand here. Infantrymen standing behind this stockade can shoot over these walls down the glacis. So any attacking infantry are wiped out in a total killing field. Look at all the different angles. All of these angles. It's a classic star-shaped fort.
I'm sorry, guys, but what's the point of these? Are these just modern day, just fences to look cool? But I mean, what is that, sticking up like a foot above the level grass there?
All the different angles. All of these angles, it's a classic star-shaped fort. What I love about this fort so much is there are less than 15 star-shaped forts in Britain, and that's deliberate because most of the fighting that had occurred in the British Isles was before this era, this technology of star-shaped forts. That's why we've got so many medieval castles. But this one's different because it was built so late in the 1750s and 60s. It used this new technology that you usually only see elsewhere in Europe. So these star-shaped angles meant that every single field of fire was covered. Cannon could shoot down the length of all the walls. There were no blind spots at all. It's beautifully symmetrical. So then we get to the first ditch. We say goodbye to the covered way here, where infantrymen can run around the edge and be out of sight of the enemy the whole time. We get to the first huge ditch. This would have been a drawbridge, and we cross through into what looks like the mighty ramparts of the fort, but it's not. This is only an outer fortification. It's called a ravelin. It's like a little island it's like a little island, like the mighty ramparts of the fort, but it's not. This is only an outer fortification. It's called a ravelin. It's like a little island it's like a little island fortress all by itself, protecting the main access to the rest of the fort. Come through here. Big strong gates, of course. Just look how thick these walls are. A medieval castle might have walls even 3 or 4 meters thick, but this is 20 or 30 meters thick, designed for pounding by the heaviest artillery at the time.
I don't think it's getting through
and
that.
Only when you get out here do you realise that this was just a small island fortification, if you like. Then you've got the proper moat, and beyond that, the actual main entrance to the fort.
Something just this whole video that's kind of troubling me is I've watched a video on the star-shaped forts and their usefulness, and I should know, but all of these really open spaces in between sharp corners and narrow ways and big gates and 20-meter thick walls, then there another sort of layer of a enclosed area inside other walls with a moat and a bunch of flat area. Why not? How do they? I don't know how to explain exactly my thoughts.
Itself, and beyond that, the actual main entrance to the fort itself. If it had been attacked, the attacking force, even if they'd managed to overrun this, can you imagine how disheartening it would be to suddenly see that ahead of you? So that's the arrow-shaped ravelin behind me now, and I'm crossing the enormous ditch. This could have been flooded when the enemy approached, so it would have been a huge obstacle. Crossing this ditch are these drawbridges. There would have been 2 back in the 18th century, and only then do you realise the brutal weight of crossfire that any attacking force would have under here. Just look at these. You've got cannons mounted there, optimised to cover this zone here, turning it into an absolute killing field. There are no blind spots on this fort. And the size of these ramparts are very significant. But of course, from out there, you don't see them because of the gently sloping glacis. So finally, I've got to the principal gate. Through there is the inside of the fortress.
I'm so stupid. First, I wasn't sure if he was going from the inside of the fort out or the outside of the fort in. Okay, I get it. The fortifications make much more sense now. Of course he's going into the fort. I get it now. So you're going through waves and waves of ditches, drawbridges, thick walls, open areas with no cover for fire, and repeat, and then you get to the center.
Itself.
I'm such an idiot.
And right up here, look at this. George II's coat of arms, and that was very deliberate. This had a military purpose, but it also had a very powerful political purpose. It was designed to show the people of the Highlands that man, George II, the man who gave his name to this fort, George, was their king, and not the...
George III is not my king, all right?
Exiled Stuart family. You could have been in no doubt coming through here that this regime was firmly in charge of this part of Scotland. Entering the principal gate now. These gates are the original gates of this fortress, 250 years old. They are still closed every single night because this is still a working military base used by the British Army to this day. These are another set of gates that would have added an extra level of protection. And then finally, after passing through these incredibly thick ramparts here, we're out in the centre of the fort where the barracks and the working buildings would have been.
Okay. It makes so much more sense to me now. And wow, you're not getting through that. I don't know why in the beginning I was so confused. That's probably why I didn't talk a lot in the first like 4 minutes. I was just like, where's the defensive? For some reason, I thought he was walking from the inside out, and give me a break. I got it now.
Remarkable heart of this fort. It's the Barracks Square. The buildings all around this square pretty much unchanged since they were completed. This one in 1757. This is a true time capture. It's a very, very special fortification, this, because it was never attacked, so it was never, parts of it were never destroyed, it was never rebuilt, and also because the army were custodians of it, all the way from when it was created 250 years ago, right up into the present day when it still acts as a barracks. As a result, it's been frozen in time. It's truly one of our national treasures. Fort George is defended by around about a mile of star-shaped wall, and burrowed into those walls are bomb-proof rooms like this, accommodation, storerooms. They're called casemates, and they would have had something like 40 men able to stay here in the event of a siege.
Oh, I thought this might be where you store ammunition or something where it can't blow up.
To leave their nicer, airy barracks out there because of mortar shells, cannonballs potentially landing, and they'd have come in here where they've been safe as houses. There's some slits there
Ventilation.
for light and ventilation, and then a fireplace here to keep you warm on those cold Highland days. If this place had ever come under siege, it would have been pretty grim in here. The ground would have shaken, the dust would have fallen out between these bricks, the pounding it would have received, and there'd have been 40 men in here. The smell would have been bad.
I mean, I feel pretty safe, though.
Sanitation wouldn't have been great, but they'd have been safe.
Is it just me, or am I a lot of words I've said this video, he ended up repeating right afterwards? ESP?
In the northern wall, there's what's called a sally port, which is a narrow entrance through which the defenders can emerge and disrupt the siege. This is the northern sally port, and you can tell that in the event of the attackers managing to get in here, it would have been a killing zone. These slits go through to the casements, and they've been able to shoot and kill any attackers that made it this far. But this is a particularly special place. It's
like an Indiana Jones booby trap.
You're not allowed here as a member of the public, but the museum have kindly let me have a look at this, because here on the gate of this sally port there's some extraordinary graffiti from different periods. Squaddies over the years leaving their mark. 1781. Absolutely magical. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Nothing connects you with the people that have gone before through this space than the graffiti they left behind. It feels very, very human.
My knees would buckle touching like an engraving that someone had just written in the 1700s.
Finally, up here on the top of the ramparts, we get the cannon. Now, they would have had about 70 cannon surrounding the walls of this.
Guys, I know this might be a stupid question. So the reason there are wheels on a cannon, I feel like I know the answer, and I don't want to ask it anyway now. Just the reason there are wheels and why not it's just like put in concrete or like in just a sitting metal kit, but I'm assuming just the constant explosions inside the barrel would, you know, the recoil. Never mind. I know the answer.
Now, they would have had about 70 cannon surrounding the walls of this fort, all carefully sighted so there was not a single blind spot anywhere along these walls. If you look out through these embrasures, you can see the cannon were designed to fire solid round shot cannonballs, if you like, at any ships that might be approaching. But they could also be loaded with something called canister shot, which was a canister of, say, musket balls, which you'd push in, fire out, and that would turn each one of these cannon into a giant shotgun, which could have a
I did it again.
devastating effect on any attacking infantryman.
It seems like, I know there are a lot of cannons, but you don't have much aim room, you know, horizontal.
These are called pepper pots. They are sentry posts, which are pushed out, so they're actually outside the rampart. So from up here, you can see everything going on outside the walls. There is not one place where an enemy can sneak up to the walls and start making preparations to scale them. I was standing now at the western tip of this massive fortress, and you can see from here exactly why the military planners put it here. Just down there, this is the Moray Firth. Down there is the city of Inverness. That was the most important settlement in the Highlands in the 18th century. You can see where the mountains form a sort of valley down there. That's the so-called Great Glen. Loch Ness runs the way through it. That's like an artery that runs right through the Highlands, dividing it in half. And the plan of the British government was to put a ring of steel down the Great Glen, starting here, which blocked off its northeast end, forts all the way down and out to Fort William on the far side. Never again would the Highlands be lost to the British Crown. Welcome to the History Hit YouTube channel,
just watch that
we
one.
are relaunching. We've got all the best exclusive content going straight onto this History Hit YouTube channel. And you can find out, for example, why on earth I'm standing at the top of this mast.
I already know. I watched that. It was cool. Climbing Admiral Nelson, not his ship, a ship in his navy, 18th century British ship. Awesome. Love learning about castles. I'm going to watch. I don't know what I'm going to watch. I think I'm going to do one more video until I call it quits. I think I'll upload this schedule tomorrow morning, probably like 1 a.m. for you Brits, or 1 p.m. So 13 o'clock. You guys. See you next time.